definitely a cougar, but the question is like, was it in the trees or is it behind the... Oh, we're live. Hello, everybody.
Yep, we're live. Welcome, everybody. This is Maximum News for November 24th, 2024. I hope that I see on my dashboard everything just went green, so I don't know, the first part of that might have just gotten cut off, but that's okay.
Oh, we're live. Hello,
Hello, everybody.
everybody.
Welcome to Maximum News on the Triple S League. We've got some interesting announcements for you, plus we're going to be covering the news of the week as always. But first, we've got some, exciting and also bittersweet change-ups. I mean, you might notice that things are a little different. For one thing, Max isn't here. For another thing, we are live instead of pre-recorded. And for another thing, I'm here instead of Max, who is usually here. As I told you on the last show, I stepped in as host because Max was not doing well, and unfortunately, our good friend Max Darrett is going to have to take some time.
He's taking some extra time.
He's taking some time off of the show.
He's going to address it in a separate video.
Yeah, on his own channel.
On his own channel, so he's asked us to kind of wait until.
So I won't get too much into that. Yeah, but we have. This is not like goodbye forever Max from the Triple S League or anything like that. But
he's still going to be around when he can. The only difficulty is that there's some stuff, and like I said, he'll talk about when he's going to post a video. He's going to talk about it sometime. But
we have taken a step with Max's approval and cooperation. We've taken the step of continuing Maximum News here on the Triple S League, even in the interim when he's not able to be a part of it. And we have found a new host. And if you are on our Discord server, it's somebody that you know. Somebody who has been a very involved member of our community for a long time and has appeared in videos in the past and has done a very good job. She has also taken on her own streaming career and is doing very well. And I'll just introduce her right now. It's Lady Reaver. Welcome, and welcome aboard. Welcome to the team. It's exciting to finally officially get to work with you. I've had my eye on you for a number of years as someone who had a lot of potential in terms of joining us as a team member here at the Triple S League, and we're excited to actually have you. And there you are on the screen now. Well, you just appeared for me, but I'm watching the stream on delay, obviously. Yeah, welcome, and thanks so much for stepping into this role. So Lady Reaver is going to be hosting Maximum News for the foreseeable future, until such time as if and when Max is able to rejoin the show. And we're still figuring things out, but we definitely want to, we're definitely happy to have her and have her on board making content for us here. So why don't you just briefly introduce yourself, and then we'll get into the news today.
Hello, everybody. My name is Lady Reaver. I am a psychic witch VTuber, and I have my own YouTube channel, just Lady Reaver, and I mostly stream on Twitch. It's been a while since I've been on YouTube, so yeah, I'm glad to be here. I've always wanted, to work with you guys, and I'm just really excited to be here.
Okay, you psychic witch. What number am I thinking of?
6.
No.
Oh.
You're off by 2. Anyway. Well, we're excited to have you. So go ahead. Take it away, Lady Reaver.
All right, guys. Hold on. I made a list. I'm just kidding. It was actually Saip who made the list.
She psychically pulled it from his brain.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so
you can get lost in there. You have to be really careful.
Yeah, I have to make signs to remember where everything is.
Well, that's why we started late. We had to pull her out. We had to tie a rope around her ankle and yank her out of there.
Yeah, I'm a professional, guys. Trust me, I'm a professional. All right. So apparently, Elon Musk is going up against Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast. And what is that exactly? Because I heard about that, but I don't know what that is. What happened? What's going on there?
So there's a lot to this, and you'll know that Elon is an actual gamer. who actually values games because he actually knows the history of games that most people don't know about. So most people aren't aware that D&D was created by a guy called Gary Gygax. Ash, how do you pronounce his last name? You're better at pronouncing these names than I am. Ash.
Sorry, I had quickly just deafened myself so I could check out how the stream audio was doing. What did you ask me?
Oh. I said, how do you pronounce Gary Gygax's last name? Is it Gygax or
it's Gygax? Yeah, it's exactly what you just said.
So,
yeah.
Okay, perfect. So this is the guy who created D&D, and this guy, I mean, talk about somebody who's gone through a whole hell of a lot. He's passed away now, by the way. But he created it way back in the, what was it, the 70s. He and some guys would get together and they would play these games, and they got more elaborate, and he ended up creating a rule set, and that's what ended up becoming D&D. And then he got maliciously targeted by a bunch of crazy rumors in the 80s and the 90s and some other stuff, and ultimately, it kind of got sold around until it ended up in Wizards of the Coast pocket. But a lot of people who remember his contributions to the game, and the game's not really changed that much. Like the newer editions, a lot of them are not as good as the original, like, first couple of editions that he put out. And I would typically agree with that. I think 3.5 was probably the best that it's ever been. And it gives the most, like, flexibility, and the changes that they put on it are kind of, like, not as good. And I'm very curious to see, like, I think some mods for, like, a 3.5 rule set in Baldur's Gate would actually be pretty crazy. Definitely not something that's coming anytime soon. Like for sure on that. I've heard some people chit-chatting about doing a rule overall, and there's a whole bunch of, like, custom classes and other stuff coming out, but I don't think we'll see anything like absolutely groundbreaking major until probably like a year or two from now, because a lot of these like big mod projects, they take time. They take a lot of time, and we'll chat about that a little bit later. But still, it's like you've got this guy who created the game, and whose reputation and history has been trashed. And it's so weird because in the 70s and 80s, it was like, this guy is trying to he's trying to like recruit your children into, like, devil worship. And then fast forward 20 years and it's like he was obviously this ultra conservative religious right wing crazy person. And it's like, wow, the newspapers can't get this stuff right, because in some cases this was written by the same people. There were people in the 80s who were slandering, in the 90s that were slandering this guy as being, like, crazy, who are now, like, in organizations which the articles are now being written that, he's this right-wing crazy person. And it's so disrespectful to him, to his memory, to everything that's going on. And they have, Wizards of the Coast have treated the overall D&D experience pretty horribly. Like, how many I'll gauge you guys, how many atrocious things have you heard in the last, like, 2 years about Wizards of the Coast handling D&D? Like, how many, like, ridiculous, crazy, like, scandals have you heard?
There was the orc scandal, which who even fucking makes that connection with orcs and black people? Who fucking does that?
Yeah.
Like, what? And now they're
trying to change. Have you seen the newest picture that they put out where they're Mexicans, and now they have this, like, Mexican culture to them that was never there ever before, but apparently is now?
And they tried to, like, change the name of shamans. Like, you're not allowed to be called shaman anymore. You're supposed to be called, like, something else, like spiritualist or something like that. I'm like, what I don't understand why, like, they're like, you know how they overcorrect? I think they're overcorrecting.
Oh yeah.
They're, like, they're trying so hard to not they're trying so hard not to seem racist, but they end up doing things that seems extremely racist. Like
they end up pointing out connections that nobody else, no sane person actually thinks is there.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't
It's kind of funny because then it's like, well, like the common kind of meme answer is, well, who's the real racist then? Like if you're,
Yeah, exactly.
it's like I don't see I don't see any real world ethnic group when I look at all these fantasy creatures.
yeah,
You know,
I feel someone
And
said
then we
that it's
had
because they can't really make, was it they don't have much big imagination, so they make connections from the real world to fantasy characters in order to like make some kind of connection. I don't know.
what is good question, Blunt Man. Like, what is wrong with the word shaman? Like, what is the issue there?
It's a Native American term. It's a Native American
it,
term. It's
but it's not really, because that's not, they didn't have the, like, their word wasn't shaman. Their word, that's a rough
Well,
translation of
I
it.
could have sworn I've heard
And then it's applied
it referred
across
to,
culture.
yeah, like isn't that a cross cultural thing? It's a word for someone who fills a certain role. Um, but yeah, I never thought it only applied to one culture.
Well, I mean, it goes
no,
back.
well,
um
it probably is attached to multiple cultures, but
yes.
to them,
Yeah.
it's Native American.
So the word goes all the way back to both Russian and German history, popping up in the 1700s. So again, it's like you really have to bend it one way to try and make it, you know, come out as one way or another. It's like there's, and it's just reference to a broad, like, group of it. If we were to say something like uh dukun, dukun, like that's a more, you know, specific thing. Kahuana, which again I'm probably butchering this. That's Hawaiian. It's Kahuna, and it's like those words are more culturally relevant. This is just a generalized translation into the English from, not from English. It wasn't, or it didn't originate in English. It generated from Russian and German to mean kind of like person who practices some form of spirituality. And it's like, okay, wow. So yeah,
It, you know,
you know, the again, the broad brush of like trying to take multiple things out. But then you also have the Wizards of the Coast horrendous thing with the public license that had been a staple since its
you mean
founding
when
and
they
creation.
were trying to copyright everything?
Yeah,
When they're
when they're
trying to
trying to
copyright?
copyright, own everything, they're trying
Uh,
to like take money out of people's hands. They're trying to charge exorbitant prices. It's like I get that they want to make more money, and as I've said 1,000 times before, there are 1,000 different ways that they could make more money. Like the amount of like cool dice things that have been around, the amount of cool, like my brother got this for Christmas a few years ago. It's a tower. You put your dice onto the tower and then you press a button and they fall through the tower and they come out into this tiny little enclosure, and that's what rolls your dice. It's really
ooh.
cool, it's really aesthetic, it's very nice. And why isn't Wizards of the Coast selling that? Like, why don't they have a store that's basically like a, you know, like an Amazon store, selling absolutely everything
I
that's either licensed or created and then sold at a, like, with a fee on the store that has all this cool stuff on it? It's like, why didn't they do that?
it
Why do I have to go to Heroes, website called Heroes Forge, to generate and create heroes that can be 3D printed? Like, sure, there's other places to do that, but Wizards of the Coast don't have anything even remotely close to that.
it's because
And it's,
they
the big question is
obviously
why.
it's because they obviously they changed their focus, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's very obvious that they changed their focus. Instead of trying to make new and innovative things for
Product.
players, yeah, products,
Mm-hmm.
they I feel like this is me just, thinking outside the box here, allegedly. I think someone may have gotten into their ear about, instead of trying to be more ingenuitive, creating new things, they're like, no, we have to look back into the past and change things. And I think because that happened, that optics shift, that obviously, I feel like they just started. If I remember correctly, I could be wrong. Correct me. Did they start losing stocks? I believe so. Oh yeah, with the whole.
Yeah.
Wait,
Yeah.
does Hasbro own Warhammer 40K, or was that Wizards of the Coast?
No, that they own Wizards of the Coast. I don't think they own. That's a different company that owns
Warhammer.
that universe.
Okay.
Yeah,
But
but it's like,
has
but yeah,
the
you're
stocks
right.
gone down?
Oh yeah,
Obviously
yeah. They've been hammered. Hasbro has been losing a lot, and they're in a position where they're actually trying to sell off the company, because they just haven't had success with a bunch of this stuff because they don't know what they're doing. Yeah, Warhammer's Games Workshop. Thanks, Kisuke. But yeah, they just generally do not know what they are doing as a company, and this is where, like, I'll quickly go over some of the other scandals. So they had the whole race mixing is bad and racist. They had a whole bunch of
Sorry.
statements about,
How do they
right.
How do they not see the racism in that? We gotta keep the bloodlines pure. We gotta keep the bloodlines pure.
We're talking about fantasy races, right?
Oh my god.
Yeah, yeah. Being a half elf,
You're not
is
allowed to
considered
mix.
be racist.
Don't mix the bloodline. Oh my god. Sorry.
And then they tried to say, no, it's so that we're saying that, if you're a half elf, like, maybe you're a half elf and a half orc. It's like, yeah, we call those half orcs. Yeah, but it's like racist to, like, assume, like, what, and it's like, oh my god, you're so stupid. You're so stupid. But and again, the list is as long as my arm. The amount of stuff that they've done, the amount of stuff that they've said, the fact that they continually go into a whole bunch of stupidity. By the way, hit the like button if you guys can. I'd be thankful. Would be thankful. But just generally, like, it's just a bizarre situation where Wizards of the Coast has been slowly picked off by Hasbro itself, and Hasbro is leaving the most inept, moronically idiotic people in charge, and it's just painful. Blunt man, he goes, all the scandals, yeah, wake me up in an hour. That's what it is. And Larian said this, that when they started working on Baldur's Gate 3, their team at Wizards of the Coast were dozens of people, and now I think he said there's like one person left there from that original team.
Only
So again,
one?
the stupidity of
Goddamn.
them just, yeah, well, and the I think publicly they said almost no one's left from that original team. And it's just, and then you look at what they're doing with Gygax's memory. They just released a book about covering the original Dungeons and Dragons, and they had a disclaimer that pretty much everything written in it was racist, sexist, and blah 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 blah. And it's like, excuse me, for the time, it was incredibly forward thinking and very progressive. Like, the fact that you could play as a female warrior and a male warrior, and they were considered the same in that universe, a lot of people were like dumbfounded by that. It's like, what? Oh my goodness, the same? It's like, and they were the ones who brought that forward and made that canon acceptable everywhere. So the fact that they're calling them out as racist is just, it is so disgusting and so vile that I have such a,
Oh, gosh darn it. I'm so out of touch with tabletop RPGs, but does Hasbro also own was it Masquerade? Vampires of the Masquerade?
No, that's I don't know if they might publish the physical side of it. They might, but
Because
it's right now it's owned by Paradox
like no, I
as like
mean
the general
the
IP.
World of Darkness IP.
Not sure about the World of Darkness one. I'd have to look that one up.
Well, it just remind you saying that they like did like a warning in front of the playbooks
Hmm.
reminded me that the World of Darkness also updated, quote unquote, updated their playbooks to say, um, your character will like has to ask for consent to like drink blood. And I'm like, you do realize you're a vampire and you play as a fictional monster, right? But
Hmm.
consent is
Hmm.
very important. It's just
Yeah, White Wolf. Keyskate. It's basically just
So I
it's
just
the
couldn't hold the laugh
whole
in anymore. Sorry.
right.
Asking for a vampire asking for consent to suck somebody's blood.
it's
Um,
very important. They want to get inside your home, so they need to be invited, you know? This consent is important.
I mean,
Right.
it's just I feel like it's a symptom of people not being able to distinguish between fantasy and reality, and taking things just way too far. I mean,
Right.
yeah, in the real world, uh, I mean, consent is an important issue, but we're talking about a fantasy realm of vampires and like it just do they not understand what fantasy is? I mean, it's the same old song and dance about oh, violent video games are going to make kids do violent things, or if a vampire sucks somebody's blood without asking for consent, like it,
It's more of being restricted because someone was explaining this about what was wrong with Dragon Age the Veilguard. It's
mhm.
more that you're restricting on how a player plays a character. Like you're not giving
Right.
them the choice is what the issue is.
Right. So they don't want you to be able to make evil choices anymore,
Yeah,
or
you can only
morally
be a
questionable choices, or be a morally gray character. You can't be a neutral character or an evil character anymore. And I'm not speaking specifically about Dragon Age. I've heard that your choices are somewhat restricted in the new Dragon Age, but I haven't played it myself.
the worst you can do is not engage with characters. Like
Hmm.
going on companion quests, not talking to them, that's the worst you can do. But every single dialogue option, even the hard stoic options, are just very supportive of everything. And there was one dialogue option where you can say, "Who is this fool?" And you're like, "Oh, you think? Oh yeah, I can be mean to this guy. I can call him an idiot." But even then, when you click the dialogue option, it just goes, "Who are you?" or "Who is this guy?" Like you're not even mean. It's like you're not even mean. Like
You
in
can't be a jerk anymore. Yeah,
yeah,
and
like
that's
you have to be
and the
good
thing.
all the time, every day, all like that's not realistic. That's not reality.
Half the fun of playing games like Baldur's Gate is that, or like or well like that, like Dragon's Age, or games that I have played like Baldur's Gate or The Outer Worlds or whatever, is you can play through being the hero, but then for fun you can just go through and be the villain, and it's just funny and fun, and it's just a stupid escape because it's just a video game at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So it's not like I don't think the things people do in games at all says anything about who they are as a person. But that seems to be like it's like yeah, we can't allow people to do the evil thing. We can't just make a realistic world inside our video games where you have good people and you have bad people. You
Yeah.
know,
It used to be
it's frustrating. It's a frustrating new reality of. But the thing is that people don't like that. It's bland. It's boring.
it's
Having everything be
safe.
having everything safe and sanitized like that. I mean, that's it's boring.
Yeah, it's
And that's
like
why people.
the most the you can only have a story with conflict. The whole point of a story is conflict. Because like there's
Yes,
conflict of self, conflict of environment, conflict of another person. Like that's how you even build a story. is
This
conflict.
there were some reviews of the Super Mario Brothers movie by people who clearly have never seen a video game in their lives, first of all. But they're like, there were some reviewers being like, man, this Bowser guy, he really exhibits a lot of stalker behavior, and this is problematic. It's like,
Bowser?
he's the villain, dumbass.
They don't understand the concept of villainy, right? Like
Exactly.
And I've encountered that recently
Oh God.
from some readers reading through my book series that's coming out hopefully next year. That's what we're planning on. But there was definitely like somebody was like, it's like this person's doing something really villainous here. It's like, yeah, they're a villain.
Yeah,
Like
they're the
like
bad guy.
did you think they were gonna fight somebody who was like had crossed the street illegally? Like like where is your head at with this stuff? And that's just always been the case where it's like there's just really some high level like I want to say like copium, but like yeah, it's like this high level like just insanity of like, oh well, you can't have a bad guy do this. That's it's like that's the whole purpose for them to be there is to be mean.
I mean, we're just getting into the subject of like them rewriting character origins to be like they're actually not bad people. You know, like with Cruella de Vil, which makes no sense in my opinion because it's supposed to be a lady who's so egotistical and so evil that she would, you know, capture puppies and make coats out of them because she's evil. Hello. But then they had to make an origin story where she's like, oh, the reason why she hates dogs is because dogs killed her mother. And it's like, what? What?
Well, then why? There's no way really. I shouldn't say there's no way, but that doesn't seem to click with me. If
it
dog
doesn't track, no.
Like that then she'd want to wear dog skin coats.
Yeah.
Because dogs get like, wouldn't you want to? Like that doesn't even make sense. I suppose maybe if she got some perverse enjoyment out of being like, yeah, I'm wearing the skins of my slaughtered enemies.
That was the I mean, that was the original. I guess that was the original idea. But even then, they made it. They're like, well, we don't want to be too harsh with the dogs killing the mom, so we'll just show Dalmatians just put like jumping up and shoving her over a cliff and not showing anything totally bad. And I'm like, that's it? They just kind of jumped up and she kind of fell over? That's what caused the... Okay, sure, okay. That's what caused her eternal hatred for animals. Sure, okay.
So all this craziness aside, this is where Elon Musk stepped into the ring. Because they were trashing Gygax's memory, they were trashing what a lot of gamers said, and he basically came out and he was like, "I'm declaring war on Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro." And if you're a small company compared to Elon Musk, like Hasbro is, and you've been hemorrhaging money for years, this is the last thing that you want. At this point, I would highly recommend that they just call in Elon Musk and be like, here, you can have Wizards of the Coast. It's your company now. And that would probably get them more better, healthier press than trying to hold on to it and do they're just absolute stupidity that they've been doing nonstop for years. Because this is like we're really approaching like evil territory with Hasbro. And that's sad because they've got a lot of games that I think like they have constantly mismanaged their whole thing. Like you had the whole during COVID, you had the whole what was the game we all used to Among Us, right? We used to play that as a big community.
Mm-hmm.
At no point did they say, "Hey, we've been sitting on the original Among Us for like 30, 50 years now in the form of Clue." At no point did they go, hey, we should do something with that. At no point did they say, hey, we can do something with this other stuff. Hey, we can do these cool party games. They are forever behind, and they're lashing out at other people, especially people who are dead now, who can't defend themselves, painting them with the brush of racism. Again, for what purpose? just trying to get ahead. At this point, that's what I see it as, and I don't know if all of the worst people involved in this are at Hasbro or if they're at Wizards of the Coast. But at this point, like it's just terrible. It's like, and it's like, yeah. So it's just kind of terrible. It's going to be really fun to watch what Elon Musk does with this, because again, this is a guy who, he was getting smeared by MSNBC, and
Mhm.
he goes, maybe I should just buy it. because they're struggling as a company, and that's just hilarious to me. But it's also hilarious that Elon Musk is, again, he is a proven gamer, because I don't know if y'all heard about this, but turns out he set one of the records for Diablo just last week, and he did it while he was streaming the game, and he's sitting there playing the game while he's talking with some of the techs at SpaceX, and they're going over like the most recent launches at SpaceX. And he's just sitting there. He's just taking a few minutes to play this game and to play it at like this very very high level. And some people already come out there's like, oh, he's using bots. He's using an AI. An AI is playing the game for him. No, he's hiring people to come in. He's hiring all of the best Diablo players globally to come in and secretly play on his account while he pretends to stream. It's like, oh man, that's some high level cope you got there, buddies.
Or maybe just maybe he's just really good at the game.
And the way that he talked about it, so he gave his reasons for why he liked to play Diablo, and it was that it's a game that requires, when you're playing at this super high level, you actually have to play, as you're playing, you have to give it your full attention, and you have to really zone in. And for somebody whose head is constantly ticking, that's the only time you get some peace, and it's the only time they can like shut off certain parts of their brain and focus on one thing, and it's very relaxing to do. As somebody who struggles with this, I can attest. So it's like it's very cool to see his reasoning for it, but then to hear all these people go, he's making it up. It's like, dude runs one of the most important companies in history. Oh, sorry, he runs one of the three most important companies in history at the same time. I'm pretty sure he's way smarter than than the average gamer.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really kind of cool. I overall I think this is for the most part hilarious. And
And to
yeah,
clarify what he actually did, it was a speed run of the Diablo, uh, well, tier 100 or
yeah, which
tier
doesn't mean anything to, unless
150.
unless you play it a lot. It doesn't really mean too
Yeah,
much.
yeah. So, but he's one of two people to finish this one particular really, really hard level in under
Mhm.
2 minutes. Um, and I mean, yeah, interesting achievement. From what I understand, I mean, there may have been a luck component to it as well, but I mean, he's clearly a very high level player regardless.
Yeah.
Um, by the way, Lady Reaver, can you hear this beeping? Can you
Do
hear this
what?
beeping?
There's a beeping?
No, I'm making sure there isn't a beeping because
Oh no.
I switched over to push to talk, and when I push this button, it beeps in my ear, and I just wanted to make sure
Oh
it
no,
wasn't
it
coming
does.
through on the
No,
stream.
no. If you were beeping, we would tell you. So yeah. Um, so yeah, just let us know your thoughts. Obviously, like just as far as the like the whole thing with D&D is like, this IP really needs to get sold to somebody who actually cares about it. And I hate to say it, but the vast majority of people at Wizards of the Coast need to be fired, because and some of the people who were fired need to be brought back, because
Well, if they're
there's
willing to come
clearly,
back.
well, at that point, yeah. I mean, they've also been caught using AI when they said that they wouldn't. Then they promised that they wouldn't. Then they brought it back again, and it's like
Goodness.
it's just been an absolute gong show, and they have shown absolutely no interest in making things that are good or that are built to last. They're only interested in pressing the gas pedal as far as like taking money from the players by not actually giving them something, which again is like it's just It's like you have so many options to fill voids where Fry is standing there saying, "Shut up, take my money," and they're like, "Yeah, but we really don't want to do that right now. Like we don't want to offer a fast and efficient way for you to order miniatures." It's like what do you think we are, a company that's like primary video game primary game experience involves miniatures? Like stupid. Like again, it's like these idiots don't even know the company that they're running. They don't even know the product that they're selling. And
Reminds me
just
of
generally
Nintendo a little
it's
bit. Like they
yeah,
just
well,
putting money on the table
obviously.
with
Yeah.
Well,
stuff they could be doing.
obviously, I feel like once they get their head out of their asses and they actually focus on, pardon my French, and they focus on what really matters instead of following trends, as it seems like everyone's doing nowadays. Like, I feel like once they actually, focus back on what originally made D&D great, I don't know, maybe they can actually save themselves from the fire. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, and they've been trying to try. I think they've been trying to reach a different audience that doesn't really exist. And it's like if somebody has a problem with the game, they can do a custom rule set or a house rule or anything like that. It's like there's tons of ways to deal with the stuff that people don't like in their games. Yeah, I could talk forever on this subject, but yeah, it's just it's been bad. I think that overall, we're starting to see lots of good. Larian coming out with Baldur's Gate 3 was probably the best thing for the franchise ever. And now, strangely, they've been kind of more or less, kicked to the curb essentially. And now Wizards of the Coast saying, "Oh, hey, we're working on new D&D games." It's like finally, what it was like 30 years you released three, like, oh, it's so frustrating. But
Yeah.
yeah, let us know what you think about it. Kisuke pointed out very good here, that he and his tabletop experience group have been moving away from D&D tabletop stuff and have been trying out different systems. I actually have a full. It's not completed yet, but I have a working system for a tabletop experience. Considerably a fairly good, a fairly sizable different set of rules. There's way more stats. There's way more, um, uh, what do they call them? Like professions or like skills. Yeah, professions or skills, and then there's like the combat abilities and combat stats. There's different. This is the actual armor stat that functions as a health bar. Um, yeah, so there's lots of things, and I've been experimenting with this, and a lot of other people have been experimenting with it, and some of them are doing really well now. And yeah, and a big shout out to Guy Gax's son, who's started up his own company. So yeah, hopefully we can see some change in this. I would love Elon Musk to come in and buy it outright, because at this point, keeping it under Hasbro is like keeping somebody in an abusive situation. It's just terrible. It's frankly, it's just terrible for the consumers and the players. Or sorry, the consumers and the staff.
Yeah. Oh, but also, so what's this about Starfield not being everyone's
So,
favorite game? What is that?
so
Say it
yeah,
isn't so.
so I I mean, I know there's been a lot of people talking about Starfield lately. There was like some absolutely scathing videos that have come out recently saying that Bethesda's dead, they're useless, nobody knows how to make games anymore, like at the studio. And just, I mean, you might be able to say that for the industry, but I think we can disagree with that, because the industry is full of a lot of indie developers who are doing really good jobs right now. Absolutely been knocking it out of the park. And that's kind of what my thing was on this. Is like there were a lot of people who came out and who were absolutely trashing Starfield, going, "Look, it's been like, it's what, almost like a month and a half, 2 months since the expansion came out, and they're saying, it's terrible, all this stuff, it's garbage, nobody's playing." It's like, first of all, calm down. Sky is not falling. Bethesda is in a very good position. Was Starfield the amazing game that you wanted to play? If you're angry with it, probably not.
I'm just saying,
It's
it's they
NASA punk. It's NASA punk. So NASA punk means that it's like something that's
look
is
the
if you don't have a picture of the shuttle in your bedroom or like a miniature of the shuttle, this game is not really meant for you, and that's kind of bad in the sense of like, well, they should have made it like
well
appeal to more people, but
for someone who's not okay, I'm not a huge fan of the Bethesda games. I tried playing uh Skyrim. I didn't really make it far. I
mhm.
tried playing Fallout 4. I didn't make it far. As someone who is like a very, very casual player of Bethesda games, I was not even, I was like, oh, a new RPG's coming out, but it's Bethesda, so I'm just going to be like slightly optimistic. But I had no expectations for the game. And the problem is that you're dealing with a man who said that Starfield was his brainchild. And you would think that someone who advertises their game as their brainchild would put more care into creating said brainchild. So when we actually got his brainchild, the thing he's most happy about, and it's a buggy mess, and like it's just like, don't get me wrong, people said that like the cool was it replayability was really cool, and I'm like, that's awesome, but that's not exactly, do you know what I mean? That's not like
Yeah,
most.
but again, it does boil down to the idea that if you're not super happy with the experience that you're having playing any game because you don't like the genre of those games, it's like maybe stop playing that game and the associated genres of that
Well,
So
game
wait,
because it's
are you saying, Sad, that the genre is part of the issue?
I don't think
Because
it's
I
the
always felt
issue.
like I
I,
felt like
I
Starfield had. I think the issue was more in the fact that it just wasn't well executed within Bethesda's engine. It didn't offer what people were expecting in terms of.
well because that it's not what they were creating wasn't what people were expecting because nobody knew what to expect. That's kind of the big thing.
do you
But also in the sense of like just the general field of there is only one NASA punk game out now. Technically, there's two. Like you could maybe say Kerbal Space Program is a NASA punk or sort of inspired, but it's more on the wacky side of things. Despite the fact that the physics in it are actually really astoundingly, amazingly good.
God damn it, Bloodman.
It's like right. Um, and I'm not saying that this is the best game. I'm not saying that this is the game that everybody should be playing. I'm not saying that this is for people. I'm saying that this is something that they wanted to create. The story is actually really interesting as far as like somebody who's interested in kind of slow paced, like big wide
If that
uh
was the case, then why is
science based
the
stuff.
main major consensus that it's not a good game? Like
But but
what was the
but
issue?
that's you're only pulling that from the like you're only pulling that from a small number of people who are posting about this on Twitter or on YouTube. It's like I've I've talked to a lot of people. What do you think of Starfield? It was good. It wasn't the greatest, and that's what I mean, and that's why I want
I
to
mean, that's
kind of
not
bring this up because
glowing review.
you have a
It was painfully
well, no, it's
mediocre.
not.
That's how I would describe it.
Yes.
It was just
Okay,
painfully.
so it's,
It
so
was
it's painfully
painfully
mediocre.
mediocre, and for a game
Okay,
that
Painfully.
was
so
well, yeah, and
so it's
because
painfully mediocre. Okay, so now let's compare it to some other releases that have come out just recently. Unknown 9.
Oh
Oh,
no,
so you're gonna
are
say
we
I don't
doing
even know
that?
what this game is?
Is that what we're doing? We're making comparisons to Unknown 9? Is that where we're going with
How
this?
about how about how about Concord? How about
We're
Star
making
Wars
comparisons to
Outcast?
Concord. Oh no.
Now, how about Dustborn? All these games that have come out recently, it, you've got these people running around going, "The sky is falling. This is the end of Microsoft. This is the end of Bethesda. They don't know how to make games anymore. This is just as bad as Concord." No, it's not just as bad as Concord. There was like 15 million people played Starfield and put at least 100 hours into it.
I think
I
that's
would call
because
that
of brand name,
decently
honestly.
good.
I mean, I don't know. I
Maybe,
could,
but I would all
to be
brand
fair,
name. You want to talk about brand name?
to be fair, I
Concord
could
was
be,
the
I could be wrong because I haven't played the game myself because I used to think that Dragon Age Inquisition was pretty mid, but I'm like replaying the game and I'm like, actually the writing's not that bad. It's just the fetch quests that are very annoying. So I was like, man, I was too harsh on Inquisition. So I could be like just, saying whatever everyone else is saying about Starfield, but that doesn't change
right.
the fact that it has mixed reviews and not a lot of people are talking about it. And plus, let's
Yeah,
also
but
bring up the fact that Todd Howard, sorry, my bad. Todd Howard, like recently got into a slight controversy of where he said the reason why the DLC that came out, or at least why the game didn't do well, was because they released the rover for free, and they didn't release it as a DLC. And
yeah.
I don't
So
know if Todd Howard said that or someone on his team said that, but someone with Starfield said that, and it's like, that's not why it failed. Because you fucking let us have free content. That is not how this works.
So what he was saying there wasn't that it was an issue that they gave it out for free. Said there is that they didn't properly bundle the new features in with the expansion. And
so they didn't put it behind a paywall. I get it. Oh no, I get you. I understand.
No. So what they do in other live service games or games that have like some like DLC or whatever, it's like you can I'm trying to think of a good example, but
Saib, I am a layman. You can speak to me in corporate speak, but I will understand in layman's terms that they're upset that they didn't fucking put something behind a paywall.
No, it's not. No. So typically what companies do when they come out with a DLC that includes new features is the baseline new features are added to the game for free.
Mm-hmm.
And then the story or the new location is tied to the DLC. So in both cases, you would have gotten the thing for free. The new system.
Oh, we would have gotten it for free if they didn't have a paywall. If it wasn't DLC, that sounds like the same thing that most AAA companies are doing nowadays, where they cut off content to put it behind an extra paywall.
So not in this case, because you can't. So the way that their system works is you can't do that. So you can't add a new system, like you can't. So if they're going to add mechs in, right? If they're going to add mechs in, or let's say let's take Fallout 4. They say, hey, we're going to come out. We're adding vehicles to Fallout 4 in this new expansion where you go on this journey into the wasteland. They would add the vehicles in as baseline support because it's a baseline system. Yes. The minute that you add it to the game and you have modding tools, people can just copy it over and it's there. You have to do that in order to keep the game functional in that format. So and they've done this in the past. So when they had updates come out for Fallout or for Skyrim, and there was a new feature, the feature was released to the game for free, but the expansion was tied to that system. And it wasn't until years later that once they officially bundled it that you had to essentially pay for that new feature without actually paying for the new feature directly.
So what you're saying is that they messed up because they made it into DLC content?
No, they messed it up in the presentation of it. So if they had just presented it like, hey, whether you buy the expansion or not, you get you get this cool new rover in it. It's like that's the way that they should have launched it, but it didn't, because it didn't launch that way, because it was like they launched it as a side content when nobody was actually playing the game. Then nobody got excited because they were.
Well, even then, I heard people complain. I've heard people complain that the rover's really slow. Like, there's no point in even driving it because it doesn't even get you there any faster. So what's the point? Oh my god.
Right. So that's the problem that
Well,
Bethesda's having with like perception right now. But you have to remember that just because like everybody's talking about how the animations looked bad in
That's not
Fallout and in
okay. Even
Skyrim and
if
all this kind of stuff, and that none of those things had been improved, and then you get to Starfield and actually the animations are really good now. Like yes, they're kind of clunky in
even if
conversation, but
well,
that's
yeah,
because the
but that's
optics
just
of
even
that
okay.
particular
if
conversation were right.
even if even if they had the rover as something to entice people to buy the DLC, I don't think they still would have made any kind of headway in like sales or popularity. Like I feel like it would have
Well,
been just a little blip.
again, you're so again. Let me refresh where we're going with this.
Hmm.
I'm not saying that Starfield is a good game that is on everybody's top of the wish list. You don't actually get that in any game company where every single game they put out is the most amazing game of its generation.
I think the
You
problem
just
is
you
that
just
they
don't
think
have
that.
that happen.
I think they think
No,
that.
they don't. No, they don't think that. Nobody in the studio thinks that. In fact, there was a lot of pushback on the fact that NASA punk is not nearly as popular as fantasy or post-apocalyptic
That's
scenarios,
not
and they're
true.
absolutely right on that.
That's not true.
Uh,
I feel like
There
NASA
is
Punk would be
there
very,
is
very.
no there. You just all you have to do is look at
What?
look at like television. Like how many NASA punk shows are there? There's like 3 in the last like 50 years. There's been 3.
Wait,
And that's kind of stretching it.
what is NASA Punk? Is it just space exploring?
No, NASA punk is specifically hyper realistic space exploring.
Okay, well,
So
that's
that's what
fair,
NASA
fair.
punk is.
I was gonna say, well,
So
Exodus is
NASA
coming out soon, but then I was like, wait,
but that is not NASA punk. That is sci-fi. That's
mm,
more akin to Star Wars and Star Wars and Star Trek than it is even remotely close to real life. Whatever. Because that's how that system falls in, and you really have to like kind of focus in on it. It's like yes, and a lot of people, Kisuke is right, 100%. Lots of people find NASA punk boring because it's very realistic based. There's
mm.
2 other NASA punk games that are coming out in the near future, and one of them is a very slow paced
Well, I mean, Interstellar.
strategy
Do you
game.
mean it as a game? Because I know Interstellar was a very good movie that
So
everyone loved.
yes, so in Interstellar is the only show that's been essentially NASA punked is released in the last 20 years.
Mm.
Yeah, but
Is the only movie.
when it comes to the realism of NASA Punk, are we talking about things um, like are we just talking about the realism in the design and of how things work and like accurately
It's
projecting
it's
what it would be in the future, or
it's
are we talking about like the nitty gritty of the gameplay and the fact that
no, it's the style, it's the substance. It's like film noir, detective films versus the cop dramas.
yeah, well,
Cop dramas are way more popular on TV. You've got an every year since the last 50 years, you have at least 4 major television shows of cop dramas. I mean, you've got Law and Order. That's a cop drama. That's not a film noir detective movie. So it's a very very narrow schism in the thing. But again, my whole point is that Starfield is not the best game. Yes, everybody agrees with that, except for the people who are really, really into NASA punk, and there are a handful of those people out there. It's not a large number, but it's currently sitting at around like 20,000 players. So it's not nothing. It's actually a substantial group of people who play this.
So,
It's the same number of people who play diehard mech games.
so
So
I'm just trying to
not the same people,
understand.
just the same numbers.
I'm just trying to understand why it failed. Like, what about it did
Well,
not people
so
like?
so so if I were in charge, first of all, I would have vehicles have to be number one. A real star system exploration system had to be number two. That would have taken a little bit of the of the NASA feel to it, but you have to do that. You can't have the way that they have the space flight system is not nearly as fun as what, like, it's not fun. They needed to really lean into a couple other formats of it, still have like dogfights and stuff like that, but it needed to be substantially different. And it's trying to make something appeal broadly, and in this case, people are right. It's like the engine can't handle that right now. It can't handle it, but it will in like probably like 4 or
Do you
5
think?
years.
Do you
Well, then they should have. But that's that. Sorry, Lady Reaver.
Then
No,
they
you're
should
fine.
have waited. You're
Well, yeah,
absolutely
but
right. They probably should have waited.
I think I can sum this up in a little more concisely. It was boring. I think is most people's complaint about it.
Yeah,
And there was a
yeah,
lot.
and there was a bunch of like core mistakes made.
And even though they add the rover in now, but the game was not built. It was not designed around there being a rover. But there should have been, like you're right, there should have been from the beginning. And yes, you should have allowed people to just kind of rip through a solar system and fly from planet to planet if they want, even if they mechs too, yeah.
They needed gunner positions.
Wrote the mechs into the lore. They wrote mechs into the lore and then don't let you drive mechs.
Yeah, that's the same thing that Helldivers 2 also fucked up. Was that, sorry for my speech, but that's what they also messed up, was that they put mechs into the game and then they nerfed it and then took it away. And it's like, why would you do that? Like, I don't understand why.
But this is my whole point. And Kisuke summed it up. Kisuke puts the game at 6 out of 10. I put the game at about a 6 out of 10. I think Ash, you probably put it at what, like 4 out of 10, 5 out of 10? Like,
well, 5.5. Like, the thing is, 5. like, I there was lots I enjoyed about it, and there was this big kerfluffle in our Discord server about it, as we had a couple of people who would do nothing but hate on it, and it really pissed off a lot of people that were just trying to enjoy the game.
Maybe I should play it. Maybe I should play it.
I would wait for a few more mods to come out, but because that'll make it.
But I mean, it's just this is endemic of a lot of problems with games and especially specifically with Bethesda games. They're released unfinished and then finished later. And in this case, it's not so much about the bugs. Yes, there were bugs, but I mean,
there were very few bugs.
It was
previous games.
They squashed the bugs a lot better than they had in previous games. You know, there wasn't a game ranking on.
They fixed the bugs faster this time. Sorry, it's not much of an achievement.
I mean, you're right. But it was a less buggy game than previous ones on release. But the thing is, there were so many things where you could tell they were aiming in a certain direction, just didn't get there, and that kind of left a lot of players unsatisfied.
I feel like it was the main issue was because I've heard things about the engine that they use, and I feel like Bioware is also at fault for doing this, but they use engines that are very restrictive, and I think that was maybe the issue for this.
No. So I really need to put Bethesda does not use a restrictive engine. They use one of the most flexible engines that has ever been made, period. The thing that people look at are usually the physics and usually the idea or the concept of, like, you know, flashy high-end graphics. And that's what you get when you're playing Unreal. Unreal has an amazing engine for that. But it has a really bad engine for, like, general RPGs. Or general life sims. It really struggles with that kind of stuff. You can have an entire village, and you can literally go to Whiterun, and you can watch people do a whole bunch of daily activities and have all kinds of crazy encounters. You can't do that in the Unreal Engine. You have to spend so much time creating a whole bunch of tools and a whole bunch of systems that are frankly just not there, period. Like, they just don't function in the game. So engine is, in some perspective, a lot of people look at it and they say it's an old piece of junk. But the Unreal Engine some of its code is still there from the original first Unreal Engine. So Unreal 5 utilizes some of the code that was built in Unreal 1. So it's not a question of like how fancy it looks or how old the code is. It's just about what the thing can do. And yeah, some engines are a workhorse and they function like, and then other ones are like, you're driving, some engines, you're driving a big cat with a bucket on it, right? And you're able to like move around dirt and stuff like that. Other engines are your race car, but you're limited to a track. Otherwise, you take that on the main road, you hit a speed bump, you're gonna do 5 flips and then explode into a fiery explosion. They're different engines for different things. You can't take the Minecraft engine and say, well, it's a piece of garbage compared to Unreal, because but you can't do you can't do Minecraft stuff in Unreal. Like you just, like, again, you're comparing, you're not comparing an apple to an orange, you're comparing an apple to a roast, right?
Oh
Or
my.
you're comparing or to a vehicle. It's a completely different thing. But the point of this whole thing, we got heavily sidetracked, is that there's a lot of people putting a lot of hatred, and again, we saw it in our community. Some people put in enormous amounts of hatred into hating Starfield when there's like 10 other games that have released this year that not only are they horrible to actually play, but they were so bad that they've killed their entire studios.
I think
And
just saying that, oh, games have done worse, it's not helping trying to pinpoint what the issue is. Like it
there's
it
lots of issues with it, but again, like did I mention before or after we started? Did I mention that there's almost 20 new mods for Baldur's Gate 3 that were released today?
22?
Did I mention 22 launch? 20 of them launched today. So there's been 20 mods that have dropped today for Baldur's Gate. That's crazy, right?
Uh-huh.
Oh, sorry, no, it's not 20, it's 14. So 14 new mods have been added this today. 110 mods have been added this week for an incredibly very successful Baldur's Gate 3. Do you know what those numbers are for Starfield?
How many? How many?
8 new mods today, total of 51 mods this week.
Oh god. Oh god. Oh no.
So when people say it's a dead game, it's like, no, that's not a dead game. There's lots of games out there that haven't had a single mod updated for the past 3 months that the games have released like
It's
this
about
year.
it's about garnering interest. Like, how much can a game garner interest? Obviously, with Baldur's Gate 3, there has been a lot of interest even after it's been released. How long now? It's only been a year. It feels longer, honestly, but it's only been a year since its release, and people are still playing and modding it, like, currently. It's so crazy.
Yeah,
And
that's gonna be crazy good for the next few years, 100%.
but it's like,
Like,
what?
because that number's gonna still keep going up.
I mean, I think either Kisuke or Blunt, I think it was Kisuke who said it, but I think he said that it was the pacing was very slow
Oh yes,
for the story.
So yeah, so Starfield's not a dead game. I guess
it's not a dead game because
to understand your central point here.
So my central point is that we've had a lot of hatred targeted at Starfield and targeted at Bethesda, calling them names. They've been getting death threats and stuff like this. And then you turn around and you look at there's games that have actually come out that have actually, done enormous amounts of damage to like Sony because they put down so much hope and emphasis on this stuff. So my whole thing was, and this was only meant to be like a 2-minute blurb, and we've spent almost 40 minutes on this now. 30 minutes on this now. It's just that that there's a lot more worse things out there, and if you're losing sleep because of Starfield, please stop. Please stop. It's not that important. It's not that.
It's really
It's
not.
not that dangerous to the. I guarantee you.
It's really not. Just put it
next-
off to the
their
side
next
like most
game-
people did. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Just put it aside, just like most people did.
You know, just like
if
anything,
it's
that's
not your
like-
thing, it's not your thing.
But I mean, you could say that about these other games. Like, I don't lose sleep about any of these other games that have completely bombed.
I think people are
Because
just.
there's so much stuff. Like, I just finished playing through the original through Half-Life 1. I finished it for the first time. Had a blast. There are so many good games out there that I haven't played, that the fact that we've had a couple of years of absolute just a massive turd fest coming from these AAA developers doesn't faze me too much.
Right.
And so I think that really, I don't know, that's kind of my attitude. It's like, okay, whatever.
Exactly.
Gaming's having a hard time right now, for sure.
Keys-
I will say,
Keyskate-
but I will say, like, I agree with Keyskate's point here.
I
that
want
there are
to point
games-
this out.
There are games that are way more deserving of hate. People just have higher expectations of Bethesda, and I think that is
Right.
that is true. If some, like, you don't expect Bethesda to put it, well, maybe you do, but like, we had very high hopes for Starfield, and that just contributes. So when you're expecting something
think that
great
they
and you
hit-
get something okay, that's almost worse
I
than
think-
I think
if you're
the-
expecting something bad.
I think we can understand because I massively hate Cyberpunk 2077. Like, I have a grudge against it, and I really hate that game. Is it
A lot
deserved?
of
Not
people in the
really.
community does.
Not really. It's not really deserved because the game itself isn't a bad game. What I'm mad about is at CDPR, the developers, and because of the lies that they sold. And I think that's where most of the hate comes from. I feel like it's just misdirected at the game. Like, it's like they're upset at the publisher, at the developer. Like,
The developer, yeah.
yeah, they're mad. They're mad, and they're hating on the game right now. But the real problem is that they're mad because Todd Howard sold them a couple of lies, and they're
Right.
throwing it at the game. Is it fair?
But
I can't really say because I haven't played the game, but
I would
think that's what's
tell
happening.
everybody. I would tell everybody who's losing sleep over, like, what's this going to do to the to the next Elder Scrolls game. I would tell them that they're probably going to see an improvement, because a lot of the complaints that were in Fallout 4 about, like, the smoothness and the shooting and all that stuff, which I never had a problem with. I thought it was always fine. But all the complaints that were about that, all of those complaints got fixed in Starfield. Starfield's shooting system is as good as you have in any other current game. It's actually really smooth and really good. And then, Kisuke, I want to follow up with the top mods. So again, I think I mentioned, Starfield had a total of 51 mods come out this week, 8 today. Baldur's Gate 3 had 14 come out today, 110 come out this week. Original Skyrim, I mean, unmodded, like, not the new special edition, had 35 mods come out this week. 6 came out today. Then you have Fallout 4 had 20 mods came out today, 134 this week. And then the King of Kings, baby, Skyrim Special Edition had, Ash, you want to guess these numbers? How many mods do you think dropped today in Skyrim?
Dropped today. I don't know, 200. I was not listening to the numbers that you just. I have been reading chat.
Okay. Well, let's not play around with that then. It's 61 mods today. This week, 428. So if you're trying to review Skyrim mods every week in special editions, you've got about 500 of them to try and catch up with. That's insane. That's insane. So I would say to most people, again, this was my whole point, and we went on a wild, crazy tangent, is that if you're losing sleep over what Bethesda's doing to the gaming industry, I would not worry nearly as much as what Sony is currently doing to the gaming industry, what what Nintendo is doing to the gaming industry with their lawsuits targeting small indie devs,
Yeah.
trying to claim basic game features such as throwing objects. Like there are way bigger things to burn your time and energy on, and Bethesda being a little bit behind with Starfield is not one of them. So
Mm.
the
I
sky is
mean,
not falling.
yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't think that even though I've heard things and I haven't played the game myself, I still don't think that like this is it's something to consider, I guess. It's not really
Hmm.
something to totally lose sleep over. But
Yeah, no, it's something to point out, and when and they've received the message loud and clear that they need to like up their game as far as like tech and as far as like features, as far as like things like that people have been wanting. And there's been some discussion around that a lot, and you can see from who they're hiring and what they're hiring for their next game that they're really moving in that direction. I think we're going to have vehicles in the next Elder Scrolls game, and I think we're going to have like mounted combat is going to be way bigger stuff like that.
I was gonna
That's
say,
what
I was
they're
like,
learning from. Yeah, that's what they're learning from their failures today. Is they're learning on how to improve things, and that's always a good thing.
is
So
the
anyway,
horse armor gonna be DLC?
oh good lord!
If you
All right,
if you are enjoying the spiciness that Lady Reaper brings to this program, and I'm sorry, I'm loving. I'm sure you guys heard me laughing in the background quite a bit. I'm loving that she just takes time to task on these things. Um,
right.
if you're enjoying that, slam that like button and subscribe. Lady Reaver is going to be hosting this show for the foreseeable future. We're still calling it Maximum News, as the name of our former host, who, again, nothing. Well, almost sounds
You'll
like he
hear it
died or
from
something.
Max
But no,
when it comes out,
Max will
and
be
it's
explaining the situation on his own channel
yeah.
if you follow him there. But for the time being, we have transitioned Maximum News to a new host who is Lady Reaver, and yeah, definitely like and subscribe to follow for that. And I'm trying. It's really hard to not just fall back into this hosting role because Reaver's actually the
Right.
host here. So I'll let you take it away for these next couple of
So
topics.
we're gonna skip. We're not gonna skip. We're gonna skip two and then backtrack to number three. But so we want to briefly chat about Stalker 2. Stalker 2 is out. It is apparently very buggy for some, but not for others, and it is doing pretty well. Doing pretty good. So and some dipshit. Sorry, language. Some idiot came out recently and said that the reason why Concord and all these other games have failed is because nobody has money. But
What?
Stalker 2 is out, and Stalker 2 has generated I think more than 1 million sales already.
If I was
So
drinking, I would
I
have
would
spit my drink out. What?
right
The absolute
the
gall on these people.
the absolutely insane. It's cope, right? It's copium. They're huffing copium, trying to like find out why their stuff is
Yeah,
I
so
think
it
it's
can't
because
possibly.
that they spend too much time on Twitter pre
Mhm.
Elon Musk, that they don't realize most people don't agree with the views that they have, if you know what I
Mhm.
mean.
Oh yeah.
And it's just it really is an echo chamber that they stay in, because they even admitted that they don't hire people unless they agree with the same things that they agree with, which is not a
Yeah.
it's not a good creative environment, because how you do you know what I mean? Like, if you have everyone with the same views, you can't come up with different ideas. Not really, because then you'll
Exactly.
just come up with the same thing over and over.
But yeah,
How many
you have
copies of
other
Stalker
aspects
2
of the.
sold?
So we have no official numbers yet. Nothing's been. I don't believe anything has been released officially as of yet. But from what I've heard and from what I've seen, for the most part, we are looking at from like unofficial sources. We're looking at like a million in sales. Not a million in sales, a million units sold in this last week. So that's ridiculously good.
I'm still
I'm just looking up what it costs here.
I'm still hung up
We'll
on
just
the comment of, oh, the people didn't buy the games because no one has money. The economy. You think that's the reason why? Really?
well, they just can't
Yeah.
admit that crap games are crap.
Yeah.
Just can't admit that there some games that
Did
are
you
just not giving what they're just not appealing to people, so people don't buy them.
did you know that Unknown 9? I didn't even know what the heck Unknown 9 even was until people started saying it. I thought it was a different game.
You're not.
I thought it was a different
You're
game.
not the only one.
I was like, oh no, 9. Yeah, it's that one with the team, and then there's like a little girl, and then they do like tactical stuff. That's not even the game. That's a totally different game. I don't Unknown 9. I heard that there was a game that had the actress from the Witcher TV series, the Netflix series. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, so they can accurately scan her face onto a body, but they can't do that for other models. Okay, I just want to get that out of the way because that stuff annoys the crap out of me. But
Well, they can do that with other models, but then they have to crossbreed it with a potato, and
They have to
then
butcher
they
it.
put that. Then they put that on your character. Yeah.
And then I hear about Unknown 9, and then I'm like, okay, it's a game that I heard was a thing, but okay, apparently it came out. I didn't know about that. And then people tell me that they created like a roadmap for like a whole ass franchise for this game. Like
Yes.
they plan to make
Books, movies, everything. It was going to be everything.
I was like, what? And they spent money because they thought this was going to be the next big thing. I don't know what you could even compare it to. Like they thought it was going to be a booming franchise. It was going to do so freaking well. And it's like, they were like you can't just start developing a franchise before you even release it. Who thinks that that's a good business plan, a good business model? Let's spend money to make a franchise, and we haven't even released one thing yet. Like that doesn't even make sense. Like that's not how it goes. You release a product. If it does well, then you start doing release other media. That is how you do it, because that's how you can gauge the market that way.
Yeah.
And
don't forget, they did this exact same thing for Concord and for the Dark Universe. You remember the Dark Universe with the Mummy and
oh god,
and Tom Cruise's little thing? It was gonna be so big. It was gonna be so big. And then it wasn't.
Then they're like, we're gonna put hints and do lineups for the characters, and it's like, you don't even know if the first is gonna. Let's slow the roll here a little bit, because I can understand like people doing that for like, a novel series. Let's like for a novel series, because I've seen this happen a couple times where they set up characters in advance, and then in the next book, that character comes to play, and you're like, oh, okay, and then they set up another character, and then I've seen it happen in book series, and I'm like, okay, it's a book series, that works for that. But for a freaking, okay, let's do it like this. DC Comics, and then there's Marvel Comics. Do you think they started out making movies for DC Comics? No. Or sorry, they making Marvel movies for DC Comics. Making Marvel movies for Marvel Comics? No. They had a legacy of making comics for many freaking years, for a very long time, and they built a reputation. Then they bought a studio to make movies based off of their comics, and that shot off. Do you see what I'm saying? It's just, you build the legacy first before you start, setting up other media and setting up an actual franchise. And it just seems that
Right.
It just seems that
somebody didn't get the memo.
You have this problem all the time where the artists I mean, even artists can't always predict what's going to be big and what's not. But like these corporate types, often they predict, okay, this is going to be huge, but they don't really know what makes things popular.
It's
They don't, and so it's going to be great because of these metrics, and we're designing this mega franchise according to all of our data about what's popular. But really, they're just kind of all they're doing is they're almost behaving like ChatGPT or other these AI language models, trying to string
'cause
together a predictive in a predictive way. This is going to be popular enough to become a mega franchise with games, movies, TV shows, all of that, books and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But all they're doing is taking what's already being done and rehashed it and emphasizing the things they think make those things popular, but just a corporation like
Keys
an AI language model
Kisuke,
does not have that spark that of understanding of artistry.
just to answer Kisuke here. He said, "My lady," I assume it says "my lady." My lady, this is corpo men money. You think they know what they're doing? Bold of you to assume they're even men. Bold of you to assume.
Hey, you called yourself
Very-
a lemon earlier, so I think all bets are off, lady.
No,
Just I'm just being an idiot. Don't overthink
no,
it.
you're
Yeah.
Please. But yeah, it's just I feel like they're nothing but people who say they have good business sense, but they obviously don't. Like I don't know
Well,
how they charm their way into these studios, acting like
failing upwards.
God, I hate that so much. That's just
The
nepotism,
failing
dude.
upward concert.
That's
Yeah,
just
it is.
nepotism. You
Yeah.
can do no wrong.
So and really, like, we're gonna see the end of this because a lot of what's driven us to this point was venture capital and like investing from people who were like, oh yes, gaming is becoming so big. Hey, I'm going to invest in this company. By the way, does anybody know what company I should invest in? And then some analyst comes up and goes, well, whatever company you're investing in, make sure that they're all about the DEI and all about the staying hip with the people who definitely do not play video games, because that's where they're going to make all their money. And it's like, yeah, that turns out that that's not where anybody's making any money at all. And again, how we've gotten here is just completely bonkers. But that's the thing. And again, I was gonna say this about D&D. It's like there's a whole bunch of different ways that they could have approached social topics.
I'm just so
Especially
surprised.
considering that a magical world it has different answers to different solutions. Like seeing anybody in a wheelchair in any kind of like very far sci-fi or very very like high end, like high fantasy, magic fantasy. It's like seeing anybody in a wheelchair is just immediately takes me out of the show unless there's a very 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 good reason for it. And with Star Trek they did it twice. One was a girl who had so they grow up on this planet that's got like 1/10 the amount of gravity that they normally have, and so her like her whole bone structure is completely different, and she can't be in normal gravity for too long, and she definitely can't walk around it because it causes her some significant movement issues. And then the other one was with Captain Pike, but that was because of a horrible accident that they didn't have the ability to fix. And it wasn't just that he was in a wheelchair; it was that his entire bodily functions had to be taken over by this chair, just so that he could exist. And they've actually poked fun at that in the cartoon show. Just they're like, we can regrow limbs, but we can't fix people in wheelchair. Like what the hell? Like this doesn't make any sense, right?
That
So it's like
reminds me.
that kind of stuff.
That reminds me of that new. God, I forgot what game it was. I think it was the new it's not Ready or Not. Rainbow Six Siege? They were coming out
I think so.
They were coming out with a new character for that, and it was a person in a wheelchair who can like, it was a very high end. What baffled me was that it was a very high end electric wheelchair, like very futuristic looking, and they can control robot soldiers from their wheelchair. And I'm like,
bipedally
I'm like, so the military spent money giving you this awesome ass wheelchair and these awesome ass robots, but they couldn't figure out, like, to give you a robotic spinal cord or something to help you out there, or
exactly.
Or
it's like here's what I would have done in that situation if I were her. It's like, all right, I'm gonna build a robot that's twice the size of a normal person, who's got 4 guns on it, and then I'm just gonna like sit inside of it and control it from the inside, like
not even a mech suit. Not even a skeleton, not even like a skeletal, was it a robot skeleton thing? You know, they had it in Call of Duty where they had like exoskeleton. There you go. Of course,
I would have opted to become a cyborg like almost immediately. Just give me a bunch of cyborg parts. Let's do this. But like it's so dumb. It's so dumb. It's like, hey, can't fix your legs, but instead we invented 2 bipedal robots. It's like, what?
It literally would have cost maybe not even as much as money just to give her spinal surgery and to, like, you know, robot spine or exosuit. Dude, I bet an exosuit would have cost less. Because they didn't just make 1 robot, they made 2 robots.
So, okay, let's get to this last story because we're burning time here.
Sorry. Okay, sorry.
So you've been I have been following this game since before it had a name, and I know some of the devs on this team. So I kind of need to be careful about how much I talk about it, but you've also been following this game for quite a while. Do you want to give us the skinny on what the spiritual successor to Mass Effect has been doing?
Okay, guys. There's a new game coming out, all right? The new game coming out called Exodus, all right, by Archetype Entertainment. All right, and they have the OG Bioware devs getting involved with the project, and I'm so excited because I heard that Bioware old, you know, OG Bioware devs were going off to make their own stuff and their own IPs and their own studios, and I was like interested. And the first game I heard about that was coming out from Bioware devs was this one game where it was just more of an action fantasy game. It wasn't an RPG, and I was like, oh, well, I'm not really interested. So I kind of like put that off to the side. But then I caught who was it? I think Wolfheart FPS did a video on a game called Exodus, and it looked sci-fi. And I was like, why does this look good? So I started watching the video, and I was like, oh my god, this looks amazing. And so I tried to, you know, research what was going on with that. They have a YouTube channel already set up, and they have a website page. I didn't know that, but they had a website page already built telling about all the lore and what you can expect in the game. And they even have a companion novel written by a very popular sci-fi author. I forgot his name. Patrick something. I could be wrong.
What's the studio name?
Is it Patrick or is it Drew Karpyshyn? Because Drew is, I believe Drew is back on this team doing this.
It could be Drew. I could be wrong.
Retirement.
Yeah, I could have gotten his name wrong. Was it Exodus? There's like a companion book with the.
I'm looking it up right now because I knew about the companion book, but I assumed that it was written by Drew. I might be incorrect on that.
And also, the game heavily features time dilation as a mechanic in the game. So, guess who's also involved with the project? And Bears. Yes, the man, the myth, the legend, Matthew McConaughey. fellow. I didn't even know he was Texan until I think my mom told me that he was from Texas, and I was like, "What? No way!" But yeah.
Sorry, so does Matthew McConaughey have some? Is he's like synonymous with time dilation now because of the one movie?
Apparently. Apparently, and also he's actually going to be in the game, which I thought was really interesting. Apparently, he's going to play a very important part, and there's like a twist with his character. But obviously, they're not saying they don't want to spoil too much. See, Bioware, they don't want to spoil too much, so they're not going to freaking reveal everything about the game. That's what they did with Veilguard. They like went to every news article and started saying everything about the game, and I'm like, can you at least leave something for me to discover? God dang. But yeah, I'm so excited.
You were correct. It's Peter F. Hamilton.
Yes.
Who wrote the companion? Yeah.
Well, so neither of you are correct. She said Patrick.
It's
sorry.
sorry.
Jerk. Just sorry.
Yeah, I don't know his name. I don't know his name.
What's the difference? With Peter, you got Peter Parker. He's swinging from some buildings with some rope. And then you got Patrick. He's kicking the snakes out of Ireland. It's all the same, bro.
Exactly.
What is happening to this show?
Good things.
Anyway,
good things.
I'm looking at the website right now, and this looks dope as hell.
Oh yes.
So this is. I am so excited for this series, because they're using time dilation. Every time you make a jump, you're like, rules of physics is like, it's like, yeah, you're gonna be able to jump to Alpha Centauri if you're moving at the speed of light. By the time you get back to your location, though, that is gonna be about anywhere between like 20 to 100 years gone past.
If you're actually, if it's actually movement over time, which is like, a lot of sci-fi gets around that issue by, inventing warp drive or whatever, or something that like somehow bypasses or like space folding, whatever.
The one thing,
traveling in a way that doesn't involve that kind of time dilation, but for real, that's and that was the whole premise behind Planet of the Apes too. That was a big. Yeah, it's a well-established physics problem if we're gonna start traveling to other stars and stuff.
The one thing that was a major, even the game lore is centered around time dilation, because okay, so stop me if you've heard this before, but Earth is dying, and so and this is not spoilers. This is all lore that they have revealed.
A sci-fi show where the Earth is dying?
No,
I've never heard of this before. This is amazing.
I know, this is such a premium content. Like, I've never heard such a thing. But this is all this is all lore that they have revealed through their Q&As and through their lore drop videos. But what I love about the time dilation is that Earth is dying, and so they sent out arc ships. For those of you who played Mass Effect Andromeda, they sent out arc ships out into the galaxy to find, a suitable planet to live on, or a suitable solar system. And so the first ship that found the first, habitable solar system, they're like, hey, yo, we sending out a signal. Everyone come over and converge into this area. We found a new place to live. And slowly over time, arc ships started showing up. So the first arc ship started establishing worlds and started creating societies and stuff. But it took about 100 years. I'm paraphrasing. I could be wrong. But it took about 100 years for the second arc ship to show up. By then, the societies have already been established. People were in power. Technologies have been discovered and refined. And so when the second ship showed up, you have all these extra people. What are you going to do? So they start integrating new people into the society. More people come into power. More people stuff starts getting established. More advanced technology. Then the third arc shows up. Then you start having issues because you have all these people who already established everything from the get-go, and then new people start showing up, so you have to make room for them. There's just so much to the lore that I love. And what they said was that the first arc, like the aliens that you see, they're not really aliens. They're the first humans to establish the solar system before you showed up, before the character was born. So they're like an ancient race of humans, but after like so much time and like genetic splicing and stuff like that, they just change and they look alien, but they are human in origin.
That might be getting a little bit into spoilery territory.
Oh, that's
But
not. Oh no, they explained this
This is
in
all
the Q&A.
that's yeah,
Yeah,
all
this
stuff.
is.
They're revealing like a whole bunch of their lore and stuff. And in fact,
okay.
like this
It's more
sounds
of a.
fascinating.
Yeah.
I thought that was supposed to be a.
Oh no, that's not a twist. But it's just that's why I said prefaced it with like all of this has been. They talk about this in the Q&A. Like they said, the aliens are Terra in origin. Like they originally did come from the first humans that set off. So
Lady Reaver, can you give us a quick rundown of like what time? Do we know yet what kind of gameplay we're expecting? Is it going to be a Mass Effect style game? 'Cause we were talking about we've got this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh God, I'm so excited.
What kind of gameplay can we expect? And like, obviously, like the visuals. Looking at the website, the visuals look beautiful. But yeah, what kind of game can we expect?
Okay, so for the time dilation specifically, there's just so much to the game, but for specifically to the time dilation, so what they said was that you're gonna go on these expeditions called Exodus. These Exoduses. Well, I guess Exodus, whatever.
Exodai?
And the first. Wait, what?
Is it Exodai?
I have no idea.
I'm just
So
teasing, sorry, go.
So the first Exodus, you go out and you're going to collect alien materials because you're trying to save people. So you go out and you're trying to collect materials. You decide, and when you first leave, that's the first time dilation because you have to come back. So when you come back, you have technology from wherever you got it from. You got to choose what you're going to use that technology for. And it's like, okay, I'm going to use the technology for military purposes. Okay, we're using it for military purposes. You leave on your second Exodus, and then you come back with more materials or more knowledge and stuff. And when you first leave and when you come back, your whole planet and society could be drastically changed from the first time that you left because of the decisions that you decided to make. And it's not just what you decide to use your materials for, because it could be that instead of like the military decided to do, I don't know what kind of governing body you do with just militarized, but I guess you could say that the government militarized itself because people were able to establish power and use that technology to overpower other people, let's just say. And so when you come back, you're like, oh, I thought the Targaryens were in charge. No, now it's the blue arseholes who are in charge now because they utilize that military technology to take over everything. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just things you do could affect not just, your family. It affects the whole planet that you're a sovereign of. Like, it could drastically change things. And even then, they're like, maybe the first Exodus, and you come back, everything's fine. And then your second Exodus, everything's fine. But then what you did in the first Exodus could affect the third Exodus.
Up to you.
Yeah, it could affect the third Exodus. Like, it has ramifications. Now, I am so excited, but I'm trying to taper myself because
right.
This isn't the first time like we had OG developers working on a new game. What was that? What was that game called? Oh, the ones that with Dead Space. They came out Prometheus or something like that. I forgot what it's called. but the people who developed Dead Space, they were working on a new game, and it came out, and it wasn't as good as Dead Space, and so people were bummed out about that. So I'm
Yeah.
trying to taper my excitement, but just the idea of that, like resonating consequences and decision making, I am just so hyped to see what they're gonna come up with. I'm just so excited.
So
And
this is
If it can be executed well, because yeah, like you
yeah,
said, I mean, we've been fooled before
yeah.
by
well,
something that
it's
looks amazing, and I'm not saying I'm assuming it's going to be bad or anything, but you know, if it's like you said, OG Bioware devs, people that helped bring the original Mass Effect into being, then
not just Mass Effect.
no,
This
but
is these are the core people that were there for the original um, Dragon Age, who were there for uh, original Star Wars KOTOR. Um, this is predominantly the vast majority. There's more, as I understand it, there's more people working at this company, and there's another one called Archetype Entertainment. We've covered this before, Ash. They're still working on a game that hasn't been released yet, but
this is the
there are
one from
more people.
Archetype.
Say
Yeah,
what?
this is
This is the
Archetype.
one from Archetype. There is another studio.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
I confused. The other studio is called Improbable. My bad. Um, so you've got the archetype, which we've been covering for years, but you also have Improbable, and you remember us meeting that dev from Improbable at a convention a few years ago. He's like they're working on a game and it's gonna be great, and there's a lot of ex Bioware people there. But what I was gonna say is that there are more ex Bioware people at Archetype than in any other studio, as far as I understand. So
okay.
and it's a lot of the guys from like 10, 15 years ago who they a lot of them the final straw was Anthem, but even before that they were losing people before that. But
Mhm.
really you go back to Anthem coming out and it's just like there's this promise, and the promises from the management, and then the fact that they went through like four leaders between Anthem and now, like four heads of the studio have come, gone, left, whatever. I can't even. I think there might even be more than that. But it's an absolute gong show of leadership there, and that's really what the problem was starting back in Anthem. Um, but
And
yeah, no, this game is seriously good. I compare this to basically playing a game of Civilization where you go off and do things and then you come back and like 100 years have gone past and you're like, guys, what I told you not to build a city there. I don't what I can't
It'd be
nuke my own
interesting to see
city.
what yeah,
Oh
see
my
what the AI
god.
does with that. What's the actual gameplay genre? Or is this an
uh,
action
it,
combat
So no,
game? Is it
this does
it's like a
no this
third. It's like
yeah.
a action RPG third person
Mhm.
shooter.
Yeah,
Uh,
third person shooter.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the general gameplay, but the it really is Mass Effect. In Mass Effect, you had your missions, you had your talking scenes, you had your back and forth, you had the relationships that you built with people. But really, when it comes down to it, um, you also had these whole like make the decisions of where you're going to go next and what you're going to do and who you're going to save. It plays out very similarly to Mass Effect.
oh, I
Yes, you
also
have the extra choices and the extra sci-fi stuff that's going on, but it feels like you're playing Mass Effect.
yeah, they even hinted that there might be major consequences or major changes that'll happen to your companions that you decide not to take with you on your trips. And I'm like, hey
Um,
yo, cause like was it you can
Yeah,
only
wouldn't they be
have
wouldn't they be thousands of years old when you get back?
depends on what they
it's not
depends.
thousands. It's
Or
it's not
the
you're never gone
just
for like thousands of years. You're gone for
Oh wait,
like
I think I could be wrong. Didn't they lengthen human lifespans by a lot? And then plus some of the people who are part of your team aren't even human to either. They
yeah.
haven't done
Yeah.
a total companion
The the
reveal.
the majority of the companions that you have will always be going with you on the missions. So as far as I understand, there's only like I think there's only 2 scenarios in which you have a, I'm using air quotes quite heavily here, where you have a companion, but then you choose to leave them behind, and then they grow old and die by the time you get back again. So, and I don't think I don't think that's a common thing that's happening here. So, and you're also not gone for. I think the longest time that you're gone for, as far as I understand, is like 100 years. Like you're typically coming back before that term. But I might be
And,
incorrect on that.
and we're not even getting into all the different races and aliens that actually, well, quote unquote aliens that they actually, have in the game. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's most of the weird creatures that you see, and these aren't spoilers, these are actual, info that
It's
they
already,
gave us.
already revealed stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it's already revealed stuff, but the creatures that you see are all man-made. Like they're all made by people in labs. So you have these
Yeah,
like
Ash and I talked about this last week. The up species thing, where it's like you taking, like, what happens if you take a husky and you use a little bit of cybernetics and you use a little bit of genetics, and you maybe make it so that it's at the point where it gains sentience, and then it can be like a full sentient person.
I was thinking about that after we talked about it, Saib, and I realized I kind of think that's cruel. Because if you imagine, like, they have sentient crows in the game, which
dude,
sounds like
the
sounds like
sentient
fun. First
ravens,
of all,
the
the
sentient
sentient.
ravens. Oh my god, the lore behind them, I am so excited. Like it's so crazy.
Well, I'm gonna try to talk you into doing some videos for the channel for this because you're obviously incredibly excited about it and love the lore of this. But I was thinking about that if you took a raven and made it sentient, and so you have a sentient being in the body of a raven. That kind of sounds cruel. They don't
Dude,
have hands. They
did
don't
you
have the ability to fully express their
So
intelligence and
so so okay, so
stuff like
you're
that.
also talking
That's
sci-fi.
yeah.
So if you were
yeah, as
to,
a sci-fi concept, I like it. I was
no,
just
no, no,
thinking
no,
about
no, no.
it in
You're
real
so
in
you're kind of limiting yourself. It's like you have, so you have a sentient raven, right? So one of the things, and I hope they actually do this, the raven can't stay the size that it is. It doesn't, like the muscle and the brain tissue and all this kind of stuff. They would have to increase the size of the raven quite a bit. So you're talking about bringing it up to about the 50, at least 50 pounds. Uh, Between organs, mainly, obviously, brain organ needs to be a lot bigger, needs to be a lot denser. Um, that's not always the case, but it's sort of like a thing. So a lot of the smaller creatures have to like kind of bulk up in size. So yes, it would be cruel to turn a chihuahua into a sentient being, but at the same time, you do have technology in which
And you do
there's a mind link thing. I mean, we're already doing it with Elon Musk, where it's like, hey, I can now control this computer with my brain. So why do I need
oh,
hands if I can control
sorry,
the entire house in which I live with my brain?
God, I love the ideas of the ravens because they said that the reason why awakened ravens, because most of the animals that they elevated are called the awakened. So
Mm.
awakened ravens were created because they were very good at problem solvers. And what happens when humans are the problem? Makes you think. What kind of
and
scenario would you have?
that's you get a Hitchcock movie.
Oh, sorry, it's just so, and like the image that they used in the lore video where it shows a raven perched on a stone ledge with a little cup of water or a little cup of tea next to it, watching as humans are like burning things and like humans are like fighting each other. And he's just up in his little perch just drinking a little bit of tea. And I'm like, "Oh my God, I love this so much." Cause like
I am just the because I'm thinking now. I'm thinking that poem. What is it? The one with the quoth the raven nevermore, and I'm thinking quoth the raven nevermore shall humans breathe,
humans breathe.
and then he goes on a massacre.
God, it's just
And
I just love the fact that humans are manipulating sorry, not ravens are manipulating human society not I think they might control one planet. I don't think they control everything, but they just hinted at it. They hinted at it, and that's what I was like, oh, Ravens manipulating people? Oh my god. Like I was like, that sounds so freaking interesting.
That does sound fascinating. Actually, I'm very interested in the lore of this game, and if it's like you said, an action RPG, that's the kind of game that I would want to. That's kind of one of my favorite genres. So
No, this
yeah,
this
definitely
I
be keeping
think
an eye on this one.
I think this is going to be one of the better games of it may not release next year. It may be 2026. I know that they are trying to aim and kind of lean towards wanting to do a 2025 release, but this might be a 2026 release.
Well, we don't
And
want them to rush it. We've seen
yeah,
what
we
happens
don't
when we rush.
when it's ready.
Yeah,
When it's
don't
ready.
make that mistake.
As
And
far
don't
as I understand, their funding is pretty solid though, so
and
that's a good sign.
don't make it try to run on the Nintendo Switch or the
They
Yeah.
old. The old consoles.
they did say they did say that they had a lot of freedom creatively, creative freedom. Sorry if I said that weirdly. They said they had a lot of creative freedom for this project. So I'm hoping that's not a lie. I hope that's not something that they're just saying to make people not worried because of who their benefactor is. But
Yeah,
because I think it was like Wizards of the Coast who's funding it, but I believe so. I could be wrong. You can correct me on that. But yeah, people are like,
look that up.
you're like them. They're doing behind it. But they said that they got a lot of creative freedom. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I just want you guys to know.
As much as I hate to confirm this, but yes,
You're
that
right.
is actually
It's
true.
they are a
it is
division of
funded by
Wizards of
them.
the Coast.
Mm-hmm.
Which just kind of brings this
It does bring it full circle, back to
full
original
circle,
topic.
yeah. Wow.
But they're based out of Austin, Texas. They have had like this they've been around for quite a while. Uh, over the past few years, everything is pretty much set, and really like again, this is sort of like I don't believe that they're under the same heel as other stuff. I think they have written into it that they have like I don't think a Wizards of the Coast person can call up and say, "Hey, you need to change this about your game." I think the answer to that is no. We have a contract, and that's not in the contract. You can't tell us to do that.
Yeah,
We
I
have a
think
scope, and we have a plan. The plan and the scope was what you guys funded. So yeah.
they
Guys,
learned their lesson. Sorry, what?
Yeah. You're welcome to keep streaming if you want, but I have to drop out here. I told my wife I'd be streaming for an hour, and we've gone for 2. So
It's been 2 hours. God dang.
Yes, yes.
A little under, but yeah. I mean, it's been interesting.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
Understandable. But I just wanted you guys to know, even with as much lore as we covered right now, that's not even half the lore. We haven't even gotten into the background of the clans. We haven't even got into the background of the different class systems, because there's like classism going on. We haven't even gone over the main character. We haven't even talked about all the different species, even the evil ones, or I wouldn't say evil, but definitely eldritch horror ones that exist in this universe. Like, we have barely covered the surface, and I am just so excited. We're just like scratching the surface, I guess, is what I meant.
So Drew
I'm
Carpation,
going to talk you into doing some videos on this, because there's nothing like. I mean, first of all, I'm finding it fascinating, but it's also, you obviously have a lot of passion and excitement for this project in this game lore. So we'll talk about that.
yes.
Anyway, this is where I have to drop out, guys. Sorry.
Hey,
everybody. Thank you for tuning in, and I'm not sure how much longer Lady Reaver and Cy will be going here, but
I'm wrapping up with this quote from Drew Carpation. So Drew Carpation left. He left Bioware, and he retired from game writing because he had lost his interest in video game development as Bioware changed over the years from what they were to his last project with them being that stupid mech game, Anthem. He has now said this: my passion has been rekindled. The feel of the studio reminds me of the early days at Bioware. I can feel the magic in the air. So
Oh
I
wow.
think that's a very good sign. We've got Chad Robinson. We have the founder of it. Excuse me, James. I can't. Olen. It's Ohlen. So I don't know quite how to pronounce that. But yeah, so that's what we've got the old greats. It's not like they've got the doctors or anything, but I don't think the doctors are capable of making video games these days. But yeah, they've got a lot of the original crews, and they're really putting their metal to test here. So I'm very excited for this. I'm super super excited. I'm super super stoked. But yeah, I do need to go get some lunch, which is now supper.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah,
Well, I had fun. Thank you everybody
I'll
for
be
joining.
yeah, we'll be check out either our Discord or Reaver's Discord. We will have those links in the description at some point, and we'll be probably hanging out there or possibly playing some games or streaming. So
Yep,
check
yep.
us out.
I stream on the weekends on Twitch, Lady Reaver VT, I believe. No, I think it's just Lady Reaver on Twitch, and then Lady Reaver VT on YouTube. But thanks again for having me. Thank you guys for staying and watching. I appreciate every single one of you guys, and I hope you guys have a good day or night wherever you're at. All right, goodbye, goodbye, goodbye.
Bye.
Ooh.